13 things to know before you go to Sydney, Australia. I'm Chris, this is Yellow Productions, and I do videos to help you travel intelligently, comfortably, and affordably. And in this video, I'm going to be giving you some tips on how to get into Sydney, how to get around, what to eat, what to do, where to stay, and even when to come. All right, let's get right into it. The first thing to know is just some general information about Sydney. Sydney is located on the southeastern coast of Australia. It's the capital of New South Wales. Sydney is considered one of the most diverse cities in the world, with more than 40% of the population here originally hailing from outside Australia. While Sydney originally started life as a British prison colony, it's now most well known for its amazing harbour, magnificent beaches, delicious cuisine, all wrapped up in a modern city with classic British roots that remains distinctly Australian. All these things combined make Sydney one of the world's most popular tourist destinations. The second thing to know is just a little bit of information to help you get oriented around Sydney. Life in Sydney revolves around the harbour, and Sydney is often nicknamed the Harbour City. Now, the downtown area is known as the Central Business District, and really a lot of the major attractions you'll be interested in as a visitor to Sydney are in the Central Business District. There's the city centre, which is the part that has all the high-rise buildings, but just next to the city centre over to the west is the Rocks. This is the colonial start, and this is where the Bay Bridge is and some of the city's oldest bars. This area where I'm standing right now, this is Darling Harbour. Darling Harbour is also home to the Wildlife Zoo, Madame Tussauds, the Maritime Museum, the Sydney International Convention Centre, and of course, a really neat Ferris wheel right over there. To the west of Darling Harbour is City West. This is home to Sydney's fish markets, many more maritime-themed spots, and Sydney's major casino, the Star Casino. To the south is City South. You'll find Haymarket, Chinatown, the Central Station area with lots of markets, cafes, Chinese culture, and some cheaper accommodation and shopping in this neighbourhood. Now, over to the east, you'll find King's Cross, Woolloomooloo, and Moore Park. You'll find busy nightlifes, coffee shops, fashion, and entertainment by day. And of course, Sydney is also famous for its beaches. There's over 100 of them here, but I'll talk more about Sydney's beaches in section number 6. The third thing to know is how to get into Sydney. If you're flying in, then chances are you'll be landing at Sydney International Airport. It is 10 kilometers to the south of the city center. There's about 40 airlines that fly into there. Qantas is the major carrier that flies into Sydney Airport. A couple ways to get into the city. There's certainly buses, there's certainly taxis, but I think the best way, if you're staying in the Central Business District, is to take the train. It takes like 15 minutes from the airport into the city center. That's what I did today. It costs you 19 Australian dollars. If it's a few of you, maybe take a taxi or an Uber because you could save some money, but if it's just one, do the train. Pretty solid, fast and efficient. Now, if you're already in Australia, you could take a train into Sydney's Central train station, which happens to be close to Chinatown. If you come from Melbourne in the south, it'll take you 11 and a half hours. From Brisbane in the north, it'll take you 13 hours. You can even take a train from Perth on the west coast. That's going to take you 4 days. And if you need to stow your bags someplace, Sydney's Central Station has a convenient baggage storage area where you can store large suitcases for $15 for same-day pickup or $24 for next-day pickup. Another option, if you really don't have all that much money, you can take a bus into Sydney. Right below the Central train station is the Sydney Coach Terminal, where you'd arrive if you're taking a long-distance bus like Greyhound. If you're coming in by cruise ship, you'll be coming into one of 2 cruise ship piers here in Sydney. One is the White Bay Cruise Terminal. It's about 6 kilometers away from the city center. Or this pier, which is the Overseas Passenger Terminal, it is right at Circular Quay. So if you're picking between cruises and you see that one of them docks at the Overseas Passengers Terminal, that's the better one. Now, the fourth thing to know is about getting around Sydney, and I mentioned it's a harbour city, so the coolest way to get around Sydney is on the harbour. There are tons of ferries that'll take you almost anywhere you want to go on the harbour. Right now, I'm on one of the ferries in Darling Harbour, but the city's hub of ferries is at Circular Quay over by the Opera House. From there, you can take ferries to the Taronga Zoo across the way, to Manly Beach, and all the way down to the Olympic Park, and you can almost treat these public ferries as a sightseeing cruise. And one of the neat things is, in addition to buying tickets, you get these rechargeable Opal cards to go on, but you don't even need that. You can actually just use, if you have a credit card, a Visa or MasterCard that has the tap feature, you can use those to tap on and tap off any of the ferries, which also works on the trains that we're going to talk about here next. One of the coolest ferry routes for sightseeing is definitely the one that goes from Darling Harbour to Circle Quay or vice versa. It takes 15 minutes It takes you underneath the Sydney Harbour Bridge. It takes you by the Opera House. So if you're short on time, this one takes you by the big attractions and only costs a few Australian dollars. Now, Sydney also has a pretty good rail transit network. As a visitor, you'll probably be most interested in the City Circle Loop. It's a train that basically runs in a circle around the central business district. You'll also find some useful light rail services as well. With your Opal card, you can tap on and tap off, or again with your Visa or MasterCard, tap on, tap off. That's what I do here. Now, if you're taking the light rail, because it's just kind of open here, there's no gates, where you tap in and tap off are at these readers right at the side of the station. Remember to tap off so it knows how much to charge you too. There are 3 light rail lines. L2 and 3 go from Central up to Circular Quay, and then L1 will bring you over to the Star Casino and the Fish Market. Of course, my favorite way to get around Sydney is to walk, and what's kind of cool if you're walking is there are all these signs around Sydney that tell you where you are and where things are, tell you how to get to Central Station, tell you how to get to the Capitol Theatre. In the age of Google Maps, this is still really convenient to know that you're on the right path. And by the way, when you're walking in Sydney, make sure you look both ways before you cross the street. They even have some things in the crosswalk often to remind you. It'll say like, look left, look right. Just look both ways, because cars might be coming from the wrong direction rather than where you expect if you're used to cars driving on the right. Sydney has a pretty good bus network, particularly useful if you're going down to Bondi Beach. You could also ride bikes around Sydney. It's a really bikeable Sydney. If you didn't bring a bike, most people don't, there's plenty of bike share bikes strewn around. I've seen a lot of the Lyft bikes hanging out around the city. You could rent a car, but not really going to be useful for the city center. Parking is expensive, hard, really only useful if you're going around the suburbs or going between cities. But if you do rent a car, please don't speed. They use tons of speed cameras here, not just like ones at a point in time, but they also average your speed over a distance, so drive the speed limit if you are renting a car. Please. I found taxis and rideshare to be plentiful in Sydney, but I did find Uber sometimes forcing me to come to dedicated pickup and drop-off zones. Pudo in Bondi Beach is pickup and drop-off. That's a new one to me. Now, the 5th thing to know is about what to eat, and Sydney has an amazing international food scene, but in particular, Sydney is super well known for breakfast and brunch options. It seems like you find a pancake restaurant on about every corner. The other thing Sydney is really known for is its Chinatown. Sydney has the largest Chinatown in all of Australia, and really, it's an Asia town of all sorts of Asian cuisine. But my favorite Asian cuisine in Sydney is Malaysian cuisine, and particularly at this place, Mamak. They specialize in roti. This is basically like a pulled flatbread, and I've also got some mee goreng, thank you very much, that's delicious noodles right here, a spicy noodle. This place is super busy, so make sure you come right when they open, otherwise you're going to be waiting a long time. And make sure you get the Malaysian tea. This is the tea tarik. It has a frothy top. It's sweet and hot and delicious, but this roti, you can see them making it out in the window. It's the roti that everybody's here for, and on the dish here, it comes with a dal lentil, fish curry, and some chili sambal, some spicy chili. I got a couple extra of those to take back home. Delicious. Let's dive into the mee goreng right here. It just came out of the kitchen. It's hot. The noodles are just the right amount of kind of spongy and chewy, and it definitely has a good kick to it. Okay, I decided to say this outside because it was a little too loud in there, and you can see her making the roti in the background. So for dessert, I got the sendal, which was super delicious. It looks kind of weird. These are noodles made of pandan leaves, which makes them green, served with coconut milk and ice, and it was just really good. But I want to point out, ordering in Sydney restaurants, including this one, there's a QR code on the table, and so you need your cell phone to be able to order there. If you don't have a cell phone, they do take orders up at the cash register. You tell them your table number, and then they bring the food out. But this is something I'm seeing more and more often, is the pay ahead and then get your food, and it's kind of nice because then you can leave right at the end and you're not trying to look for a bill and, you know, taking 10 more minutes to leave. So I like that trend.
Another really excellent Malaysian spot in Sydney is Hojak. They've got 2 locations. This one's in Chinatown, and I came here for the laksa. Laksa is a Malaysian soup that's spicy with a coconut base and 2 types of noodles, egg noodles and rice noodles, 2 types of meat, chicken and shrimp, and this one quite delicious. For dessert, I topped it off with the Tea Tarek Affogato ice cream, which has that little coffee thing on the side. You pour it on, you eat it for a little bit while the ice cream's hard, and then you drink it. And of course, to wash it all down, I didn't have enough iced Malaysian tea, so I got an iced Malaysian tea. Anyway, this is another super solid Malaysian spot in Sydney. Now, if the lines at Mamak and Hojak are too long, another really solid Malaysian spot's called Malay, just on the backside of Paddy's Markets. This place is open late. It's open until midnight every day. They specialize in Hainanese chicken, which is super popular in Malaysia and Singapore, even though it's a Chinese dish, but chicken with some dipping sauces, really quite tasty. And they've also got roti too. The roti here was served with kind of a sauté peanutty sauce.
Sydney is known for its fresh seafood, and right now I'm at the Sydney Fish Market. This is the $32 seafood platter from the Fish Market Cafe here at Sydney's Fish Market. What do we got in here? We got some fried fish, we got some baby octopus, we've got some oysters, we've got some calamari over here, all served on a bed of, I'd call them French fries, but they would call them chips. Super delicious. This place, in addition to having some of the freshest seafood around, they also do seafood auctions. You can get in there to see it. Like, they do tours at like 6:40 in the morning. I did not do one of those. It'll cost you extra to do that. And you can just take a look at all the raw seafood and live things they have on sale. It's definitely worth a visit here, even if you don't like seafood. Now, in Sydney's central business district, they've got a lot of really neat food courts. One of my favorite is in the Gateway Office Building. It's right across from Circular Quay. What do I like here? They have Din Tai Fung soup dumplings in a food court. I've never had Din Tai Fung in a food court. I say it's my favorite here as I've eaten it a gazillion times. I've eaten Din Tai Fung a gazillion times, but these little soup dumplings, they're really good. They're really flavorful, and I've never been able to get them to go quickly. It's like the kind of place you usually have to wait for hours. Here you can just order from like a kiosk, and then they call your food in like 5 minutes. And they've got little soybean drinks that I was drinking. Right here, I've got one of their pork belly buns. You can get this just an order of 1 for about $5 Australian dollars. Crispy, sweet, delicious. And also really unique, this food court, Din Tai Fung, has rice dishes where you can get a few small bites and some of Din Tai Fung's delicious fried rice. Now, for a really unique food court-like experience that's just focused on Asian food, head over to Spice Alley. This place is about 3 blocks south of Sydney's Central Station, and it is kind of like a Singaporean hawker center. Here you're going to find all Asian food. You will find Hainan chicken, you'll find Malaysian food, Indonesian food, ramen. It is super delicious. It's outdoors though, so make sure you come here on a good weather day, because if you're here on a rainy day, kind of like this one, then you'll have to be just under the few tents that they have. Sydney is a city of some really tasty pastries, and for some of the best and probably most expensive, head over to Koi Dessert Bar. This is about 3 blocks from Spice Alley, and 2 of their most popular, one is passion fruit, one is kind of brownie Nutella flavor. What is a man to do when presented with 2 best options? The answer is get both. See what I do for you. The 2 of these cost 30 Australian dollars total, not each, not cheap, but they were super delicious and definitely satisfied my mid-afternoon sweet tooth. Let's talk about coffee for a moment. Some could say Sydneysiders consider their coffee a religion, and actually I found the source for that religion, the Ministry of Coffee. But the coffee in Sydney is cappuccino. It's really good. I don't like coffee a lot of places because it's often bitter, hard to drink, but it's just smooth. They have a super great coffee culture here, and it's all espresso-based drinks. So if you like coffee, you're gonna love Sydney. Check out some of the local small chains. You won't find many Starbucks here, which is probably a good thing. Now, if you're looking for some classic Australian food, head no further than Harry's Cafe du Wheels. This place is Sydney's first food truck. It's been here since 1945. What are they famous for? They are famous for their tiger pie. This is a beef meat pie with mashed potatoes, mushy cheese, and gravy. And for $15.90 Australian dollars, you get it with fries and a soda. So let's go ahead and dive into this meat pie with gravy right here. I gotta cut it open. By the way, it's a food truck, so there's only a few stools right on the side of the road. They've got a few other locations in Sydney, but you'll want to come here to the original in Woolloomooloo. Super cool, because it's the only neighborhood that has 8 O's in it. It's good. It's flavorful. And there it is. You can see the beef inside. And lots of famous people have eaten here, from Pamela Anderson to Colonel Sanders. The sixth thing to know is about nightlife, and if you're looking for some place to party and get your drink on, then the cheapest place to do that where people party late is King's Cross, station of the same name that you can take to get here. The biggest icon here is the Coca-Cola billboard right there at the major intersection. Now, some other great places for nightlife in Sydney is just in the city center, central business district, and also in the Rocks. There are some great pubs there as well. Now, you'll find many of the pubs actually have hotel in their name, because in days of old in Sydney, you had to offer accommodation in order to sell alcoholic drinks. Now, Sydney has some interesting things related to when bars and pubs close when they stop serving alcohol. So they need to close at 3 a.m., but they don't let in any new customers after 1:30 in the morning. So lock out, lock in, you're locked in or you're locked out. So don't expect to bar hop after 1:30 in the morning. Oh, and if you're more into day drinking than nightlife, the Opera Bar is the place to go for that. More about that in Things to Do. The seventh thing to know is about the beaches in Sydney. And Sydney has over 100 beaches. There are a lot of them. As a visitor, I think the coolest beach you could visit is this beach, Manly Beach. Why? Well, because you can get here with a ferry from the Central Business District, from Circular Quay. The ferry takes 30 minutes. It brings you to Manly Wharf, and then just a 3-block walk brings you here to Manly Beach, this really big crescent-shaped beach. Waves coming in here, popular for surfing. Along that main shopping street, you'll find all the big surf brands, Rip Curl, Quicksilver, Oakley, lots of restaurants to eat, lots of bars to drink at. Just kind of a cool vibe here in Manly. If you prefer swimming, there is another beach actually right by the Manly Wharf that's netted in, so you can swim in there safe from all the ocean creatures that might be trying to get you here in these Australian waters. Now, if you don't really want to get in the water, but you just want to enjoy the nature, the great news is that there's some really great coastal walks both at Manly and at Bondi. Now, if you come to Manly, right as you get to Manly Wharf, there's an information kiosk that you can pick up this map, and it has all these routes that are all these neat coastal routes. So if you like walking, you'll like these routes. But just remember, keep left. Just like they drive to the left when you're walking here, you're gonna keep to the left as well. But Sydney's most popular and iconic beach by far is this beach, Bondi Beach. This beach in the summer is packed wall-to-wall people. Today, it's the winter, so it's not that busy. But something that makes this beach really cool is this swimming pool right down here. This is the Bondi Icebergs Club, and it's a public swimming pool. You can pay $9 to go in, protected from the waves. You would not want to swim out there on a day like today, but you can swim right in here, and actually there are people swimming in there today. If you didn't bring a towel, that's okay. You can rent a towel for just $4. But there's actually more protected pools like this all up and down the Sydney coast. There's about 40 of them in total amongst all of the Sydney beaches. Coming to Bondi Beach, you can take the bus to get here from Circular Quay, the 380 or the 333, takes about 45 minutes to get here. Or you can take an Uber, that's what I did, 25 minutes and about 25 Australian dollars from the city center to Bondi Beach. And you know what, even in the winter, this is a pretty neat place to come. I really wish I brought my swimsuit to go in that swimming pool. Now, if you're looking for the best spot to get a selfie with the beach, it's actually gonna be just up above from the Icebergs Club. Actually, there's this manufactured lookout right here that's got a bench on it and even a shade sail. Doesn't protect you from the rain, but will protect you from the sun in the summer. Now, if you're not into getting in the water, good news, there's a great coastal walk here too. This one has an awesome map. You can see all of the different bathrooms. It's 15 minutes to get down here to Clovelly Beach, and you can even go even further down to Coogee Beach. The 8th thing you should know is about shopping. And in Sydney, there is a lot of great shopping. I think shopping is maybe one of the #1 pastimes of visitors to Sydney. And it's not just that the shops themselves are cool, but the places where you shop are really cool. This is the Strand Arcade, built in 1891, and it is just a truly amazing place. Now, the heart of shopping in Sydney is on George Street, which is in fact where this Strand Arcade is. George Street is the kind of pedestrian street that has the light rail that runs from Circular Quay to Central Station. You'll find most of that section has a lot of good shopping, though you'll find the heart of it right at the intersection of George and King Street. Now, if you are coming here to shop, you should know the stores close really early, like 5 p.m. It is 5:15 p.m. and some of these stores are already closed. 7 p.m. maybe some of the stores stay the latest, but then that's it, they're shut. In Sydney, typically on Thursdays is late shopping day, where stores will be open as late as 8 or 9 p.m., but don't expect to be shopping late any of the other days. Another really iconic shopping center is the Queen Victoria Building, often known as the QVB. This building is from 1898 and is probably one of the grandest shopping centers I've been to. It is 5 floors and the whole place really does look like something that Queen Victoria would build herself. By the way, where's the piano coming from? There's someone playing piano just about 5 feet over there. But just remember, this place closes early too. The Strand Arcade closed at 5:30. The Queen Victoria Building closes at 6. You'd think someplace this grand with so many shops would stay open later. Not so much, except on Thursdays.
If you're interested in more of the flea market shopping experience, then head no further than Paddy's Markets in Chinatown. This place is open Wednesday to Sunday. There are hundreds of vendors in here that sell everything from inflatable kangaroos to cell phone cases to additional suitcases for you to take home if you bought way too many souvenirs. This isn't really where you go for high end. This is where you go for cheap and affordable. And in addition to all the souvenirs here, there's also a small farmer's market tucked in the back. It seems like you can get everything in this place. Yes, even a massage. Now, if you're hungry after shopping at Paddy's Markets, head up just 1 floor to Market City, where they have a really impressive food court. Mostly Asian foods here, but super legit.
The 9th thing you should know is about money. And by the way, I'm walking on the street from the Manly Wharf to Manly Beast. And what you should know about money is that they use the Australian dollar from Sydney, all of Australia. At the time I made this video, $1 US was $1.50 Australian dollars. Sydney is a very card-friendly city. I saw very few places that were cash only, maybe only 1 or 2 shops here and there. Pretty much everything else takes credit cards, which is pretty nice. MasterCard, Visa, some places like Aldi, where I just got this bottle of water charged per surcharge to use the credit card, but they still took it. If you're looking to get cash, best place to do it, like exchange, is not really to exchange your money at the airport, but to use an ATM. ATMs will always give you the best exchange rate, better than those money changers at the airport. And finally, they do tax-free shopping here. You can get 10% tax back at the airport on purchases over $300 at stores that participate in that. The 10th thing to know is about where to stay. And if it's your first time in Sydney, you should definitely stay in the Central Business District, because that's where all the tourist attractions are. Now, I've got a few specific hotels for you. If money is no object, stay at this one. This is the Park Hyatt Sydney. It is right across from the Opera House. It is right underneath the Bay Bridge. It's right next to Circular Quay. This is an amazing property. It's like $1,000 a night, so I only say that if money's no object or you have a lot of Hyatt points. A couple other solid options that I've stayed at and I can personally recommend is the Marriott Circular Quay, which is right in front of that big train station. The Sheraton Grand Hyde Park is nice, in front of Australia's oldest public park. And the Hyatt Regency over in Darling Harbour is Australia's largest luxury hotel, and so that's a pretty nice one too. The 11th thing to know is about the language, and the primary language in Sydney is English, but they'll be speaking Australian English, which is a heavily accented with lots of slang. And so if you've learned what you consider to be proper textbook English, you might not understand what they're saying here half the time, but that's okay. You will pick it up pretty quickly. You'll also hear a lot of other languages, though. Sydney is very cosmopolitan, and so expect to hear a lot more than English. The second language after English is Mandarin Chinese. The 12th thing to know is about the weather and when to go. Remember, the weather down here in Sydney is reversed from the northern hemisphere, so winter here is in July and August, and then summer here is in December to February. The summers are warm, the winters are mild. You're not really gonna be freezing here in Sydney, and actually I'm shooting this in the winter, quite comfortable in just kind of a long sleeve fleece and some long pants. Now, I said summer can be quite hot. You'll definitely want shorts and t-shirts or some short skirts if you come here in the summer. Best time to come is really shoulder season, so spring and autumn, September to November, April to May. And now to answer the question of how much time you should spend in Sydney, I would say no less than 3 days, but there's easily 7 days worth of stuff in Sydney, particularly if you're exploring all of the outskirts and things just outside of the CBD. But the central business district, a solid 3 days of stuff. Number 13, let's talk about things to do. The most iconic thing to do in Sydney is to visit the Sydney Opera House. And you can certainly take in a show while you're there. What most people probably don't realize from all the pictures is that there's actually a gigantic bar right underneath the Sydney Opera House in true Australian style. Actually, it's 2 bars. There's the Opera Bar and the Opera Kitchen. But from here, you can get some great views of the ferries going in and out of Circular Quay. And over this way, you can get some great views of the Harbour Bridge too. Now, the Harbour Bridge right there, you can walk across it. It's pretty neat to walk across it. So the part of the Harbour Bridge you can walk on for free is the deck right here. The part you get to do if you pay hundreds of dollars is you get to climb right up here on the top of it. You can see those little people that look like ants right now. They are doing the hundreds of dollar bridge climb. Or if you want a great view, you can go up on top of one of these pylons here for like 19 Australian dollars, though check the hours, it's only open a few days a week if you want to do that, but the views are definitely rewarding. Now, after you visit the Opera House, take a stroll through Sydney's Royal Botanic Gardens, showing Australia's British heritage. They continue the tradition of really neat public gardens. Some people come here to have a picnic. Some people come here to admire the plants and the flowers. Many of the Sydneysiders come here just to take a run along the harbour. It's great either way, and even better, admission to the Botanic Gardens is free. Walking through the Botanic Gardens here in Sydney is a little reminiscent of Central Park in New York City, not because it's in the center of the city, but because there's high-rise buildings right on the edge of the gardens. Neat view. Now, if you're a true animal lover and you've got about a half day, visit the Taronga Zoo. This zoo, it's on the other side of Sydney Harbour from the Central Business District. To get here, you take about a 15-minute ferry from Circular Quay, and then you take a cable car or a ropeway, a sky ride up to the top of the zoo, and then you walk your way down. What's really neat about the Taronga Zoo, by the way, we're looking at it down below me, that's the elephant enclosure. What's really neat about the Taronga Zoo is the enclosures for the animals are actually really quite nice. They feel quite natural. They don't feel like cages. I didn't feel sad for the animals while I was looking at them here, but they have a great Australian animal exhibit. You can see the koalas outdoors. They spend their time mostly sleeping, and you can see the Tasmanian devil here. You know what Tasmanian devils do? They mostly sleep. At the top, they have a really neat gift shop, and you know what I saw in it? Real animals. I saw a turkey strolling around the gift shop. Well, definitely check this one out. It does close early. They close at 4:30, so make sure you plan your time accordingly. Take the cable car up, walk your way down, and then when you get to the bottom, the last ferry leaves at 7 p.m., so you got plenty of time to stroll from the top all the way down and still catch that ferry back to Sydney. Oh, and definitely admire the great views of Sydney from this zoo as well. I think you get some of the best views of the Bay Bridge and the Opera House by the giant gorilla up here. You know, I've been to a lot of zoos around the world, and this sky ride makes the Taronga Zoo one of the coolest. If you like sky rides, the San Diego Zoo also has a really neat sky ride too. Now, as you likely can see, Sydney is quite a modern city, but if you want to see some of the historic parts of Sydney, then come here to the Rocks, where the British landed, where cities started, where the post boxes where you mail letters look like that. That's right. Now, here in the Rocks, the center of it is right here. This is the Rocks Square. They have a really neat weekend market out here. There's a cool Thai noodle place called Peanut, and I just think this is like a really neat fountain. Oh, if you like pubs, some of the city's oldest pubs are here as well. One to check out is the Australian Heritage Hotel. And from the earlier conversation, you remember it's not an actual hotel. That's what they call a bar of old. And because the Rocks is built on the rocks where the harbor bridge is, there's these interesting stairs. These are the Argyle stairs. They'll take you up to the higher levels. Make sure you explore all the little back alleys of this neighborhood because they're all really neat. And this is also how you'd get to the harbor bridge. You'd climb the Argyle stairs to the bridge stairs, which then takes you across the harbor. Now, if the neighborhood around the Opera House, the Botanic Garden, the Rocks, and the bridge is Sydney's most touristy area, Darling Harbour comes in at a close second. In particular, that line right over there, those are people lining up for the Sea Life Aquarium, Madame Tussauds, and the zoo. So there's a center of tourist activity right here. But it's not just like neat to come to Darling Harbour because it's touristy. Also, I really love the big promenade that you can walk around Darling Harbour. Really great in the daytime. Pretty cool in the evening too when they light this whole neighborhood up. And if you're really a glutton for walking, which I am, you can actually walk all the way along the harbor front from here to the Opera House or vice versa. If you're here with some kiddos of the younger variety, they might enjoy Luna Park. This is Australia's version of Disneyland, located just across the harbor from Circular Quay. Yes, you can take a ferry over there. Check the days they're open though, because they're only open seasonally. Now, if you want to try your luck at some games of chance, good news for you. Sydney has a pretty big and cool casino known as the Star. There's also a hotel here, buffets, restaurants, cheap eats on the casino floor. When I walked through, they had some pretty inexpensive breakfast specials, but this one's worth a look if you like gambling. What I did find extra interesting, though, is they're definitely catering to the Chinese tourists because all of the signage was in English and Chinese. If you like museums, then Sydney has a heck of a good deal for you because all of the public museums in Sydney are free, including the National Maritime Museum. But if you can only pick one and you like art, then check out the Art Gallery of New South Wales for modern art.
And an extra cool thing about the Art Gallery of New South Wales is on Wednesday nights it's open until 10 p.m. so you can get your art viewing on late at night. And you can have another late museum night at the Museum of Contemporary Art. They're open until 9 p.m. on Fridays.
If you like science, that's going to be the Powerhouse Museum. And if you want to learn about the Aboriginal history, check out the Australian Museum. That's just a short list. There's plenty more. And the last thing to know is that I've got more videos on Australia and beyond, but in particular, if you're going to Australia's second biggest city, Melbourne, you might enjoy checking out my Melbourne travel series right here. Things to know, cheap eats, and a tour with a local who lives in Melbourne, Ben the Travel Man. If you haven't seen it, check that series out right here. As usual, I won't say goodbye because I'm going to see you right over there.